The church was a vision of ethereal beauty, with cascades of white roses draping the altar like a bridal veil, their petals scattered along the aisle like whispers of forgotten promises. Golden sunlight poured through the stained glass windows, casting a mosaic of warm hues across the pews where 200 guests sat in rapt anticipation. My heart pounded against my ribs, not with fear, but with the pure, unadulterated joy of a woman stepping into her forever. At 28, Anna Rose Derrick, had mapped out my life like a fairy tale. Marry Colton James Wellington, the man who'd swept me off my feet 3 years ago at my cousin's wedding, buy a cozy house with a white picket fence, have 2 kids and a golden retriever named Buster. As a pediatric nurse, I spent my days coaxing miracles from tiny hearts, so why shouldn't I believe in my own happily ever after? Colton stood at the altar in his impeccably tailored black tuxedo, his dark eyes locked on mine, a nervous smile tugging at his lips. Even after all this time I still made him flutter. It was endearing, or so I thought. The pastor, with his worn Bible open, intoned the sacred words. "We are gathered here today to witness the union of Colton James Wellington and Anna Rose Derrick in holy matrimony." I squeezed Colton's hands, feeling the clamminess of his palms, attributing it to wedding jitters. "Do you, Colton, take Anna to be your lawfully wedded wife? To have and to hold in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, till death do you part?" "I do," he replied, his voice cracking just slightly like a hairline fracture in glass. The pastor turned to me. "And do you, Anna, take Colton to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold?" "Wait." The word sliced through the hallowed silence like a dagger, sharp and unforgiving. Every head whipped around in unison, gasps rippling through the congregation like a tidal wave crashing against the shore. My maid of honor, Karen Oscar, the woman I'd trusted since we were 5 years old, sharing scraped knees and whispered secrets on Maple Street, stood defiant at the altar. Her dusty rose bridesmaid dress, the one we'd giggled over while shopping, clung to her frame, but her face was twisted into something grotesque, a mask of ugly triumph I'd never seen before. "I can't let this happen," she declared, her voice echoing off the vaulted ceilings, carrying to every corner of the church. "Anna, you need to know the truth." My father half rose from the front pew, his face darkening with fury, but my mother clamped a hand on his arm, her knuckles turning white as bone. Whispers erupted immediately, a low buzz swelling into a cacophony of shock. "Karen, what are you doing?" I asked, forcing my voice to remain steady, though my heart had shifted from joyful racing to a thunderous dread. She lifted her chin, eyes gleaming with defiance. "I'm pregnant, Anna. And Colton is the father." The gasps transformed into outright exclamations, a woman behind me murmuring, "Oh my God," loud enough to silence the faltering string quartet. Colton turned as pale as the communion wafers, sweat beading on his forehead. "Karen, don't," he pleaded, his voice a weak rasp. "Don't what?" she snapped, stepping closer, her tone laced with venom. "Don't tell her how you've been sneaking to my apartment for months? How you confessed your second thoughts about the wedding? How you whispered that you loved me while we were tangled in my sheets?" My brother Tristan surged to his feet, his face a storm of rage, only restrained by my sister Sydney's iron grip on his arm. Karen smirked at me, her hand dramatically cradling her still flat stomach. "Face it, Anna. You're the consolation prize. He settled for you because I wouldn't commit. But now with our baby on the way, well, priorities change, don't they?" The church fell into a stunned hush, broken only by my grandmother's rosary beads clicking frantically as she muttered prayers in Spanish. I turned to Colton, searching his eyes for denial, for outrage, but he couldn't meet my gaze, his mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping on dry land. That's when I smiled. Not a warm bridal smile, but the cold predatory grin of a shark circling its prey. "Oh, Karen," I said, my voice clear and amplified in the silence. "You poor, delusional little girl." Her smirk wavered, confusion flickering across her features. I reached into my bouquet, carefully, deliberately, and pulled out my phone, swiping to connect it to the Bluetooth speaker system we'd installed for the reception music. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, my words now booming through the speakers, "before we continue this fascinating spectacle, I think you all deserve to hear something." Karen's face drained of color, shifting from triumph to terror as her own voice filled the sacred space. "God, Colton is such an idiot. The recording played, her laughter echoing mockingly off the walls. He has no idea I've been sleeping with his brother and his best man. The pregnancy could be any of theirs, but Colton makes the most money, so obviously he's my best bet for child support. Anna's so pathetically naive, it's almost sad. She actually thinks Colton loves her, while he can't keep his hands off me every time she works late. Last week, he said he wishes he'd proposed to me instead. And the best part? She's paying for half the wedding, funding her own humiliation. I can't wait to see her face when I drop the bomb. It's going to be delicious. The congregation inhaled sharply, a collective gasp that hung in the air like smoke. Karen crumpled to her knees at the altar, her dusty rose dress pooling around her like spilled blood. "Anna, I can explain," she whimpered, her voice barely audible over the dying echoes of her betrayal. "You'll have plenty of time to explain," I replied calmly, my amplified voice cutting like ice. "To the police, to the DNA lab, and to my lawyer." But I wasn't done. Oh no, the twists were just beginning to unravel layer by treacherous layer. My name is Anna Rose Derrick, and up until that fateful moment, I truly believed I was living the dream. As a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital, I dedicated my life to mending fragile young lives, convincing myself that goodness begets goodness, that love conquers all. At 28, my future seemed scripted. Wed Colton, the tall, handsome financial advisor from Old Money, whose family firm promised stability and status. We met at my cousin's wedding. He, the best man, spilling red wine on my bridesmaid dress, insisting on dry cleaning, which blossomed into coffee dates, romantic dinners, weekend getaways, and eventually sharing an apartment. "He's perfect for you, Mija," my mother would say, beaming as he brought flowers to Sunday dinners and inquired about her book club. My father called him Mijo and took him fishing. Even Tristan, my protective brother who despised all my past boyfriends, included him in poker nights. Sydney, my sharp-tongued younger sister, grudgingly admitted he had potential. But no one adored him more than Karen Oscar, my kindred spirit since kindergarten. We grew up 3 houses apart, navigating schools, crushes, and dreams of New York fashion design together. When paths diverged, me to nursing, her to marketing, we vowed nothing would change. She was my first call for everything. Heartbreaks, triumphs, Colton's beach proposal last Christmas. "I'm so happy for you," she'd squealed over FaceTime. She orchestrated my elaborate engagement party, the Vegas bachelorette bash, endless dress fittings and cake tastings. "I can't wait to stand beside you," she'd said, eyes sparkling. "We've been sisters forever. Now it'll be official." Her boyfriend, Angelo Kim, a quiet accountant, worshipped her. I envied their stability, assuming they'd tie the knot first. Yet cracks appeared, subtle at first, like hairline fractures in a foundation. Karen's unannounced visits to our apartment, always when Colton was home, lingering after my early hospital shifts under the guise of finance chats. Colton's sudden late nights coinciding with her skipped group dinners. Late-night texts from her. "Just thinking of you" at 2 a.m. when she knew I was mid-shift. His growing distance, shorter talks, averted eyes. When I probed about cold feet, he'd pull me close. "Never, Anna. I can't wait to marry you." But red flags mounted. Phone buzz during dinners, place face down. Calls taken in another room, work emergencies on weekends, cryptic credit card charges, unfamiliar coffee shops, a jewelry store he claimed was a surprise, gas stations across town. 3 weeks pre-wedding, I discovered an empty pregnancy test box in our bathroom trash. Colton feigned confusion. "Maybe Sydney left it?" But Sydney laughed it off. "I'm not even dating." I brushed it aside, desperate to believe. The rehearsal dinner amplified the unease. Karen fidgeted, barely eating, obsessively checking her phone. When my aunt inquired, she snapped, "I'm fine, just tired from planning." Colton stole glances at her, excusing himself for fresh air moments after she headed to the bathroom. Tristan teased him during toasts. "You look like you're about to puke, bro. Wedding nerves?" Colton's forced laugh rang hollow. That night, tradition separated us. He to his best man's hotel, me to my parents with bridesmaids. Karen lingered last, helping hang my dress. "Anna, you know I love you, right?" she said, voice oddly strained, hugging me tighter than usual. "Tomorrow changes everything." "I hope so," I chuckled. "That's the point." But her parting smile didn't reach her eyes. Wedding morning dawned at 6 a.m., butterflies swirling in excitement. The house hummed. Mom's famous breakfast burritos, Sydney's coffee station. Karen arrived at 7 sharp with fancy lattes. Triple shot for the bride. Can't have you fainting. She looked flawless, hair in waves, makeup impeccable. The blur of preparations followed. Hairstylists, makeup artists, photos. Dad wept seeing me in my princess ball gown, embroidered with pearls we'd saved 8 months for. Grandma fastened her family necklace with trembling hands. Karen fluffed my train, fixed my veil, touched up lipstick, the ideal maid of honor. Yet her phone buzzed incessantly, fingers flying during bathroom breaks. Sydney cornered her. Who are you texting? Angelo's with the guys, bad luck. Karen flushed. Work clients, markets never sleep. At the church for 2 p.m. photos, I sent her downstairs to check on Colton. Make sure he took his allergy meds. She vanished for 20 minutes, returning with smudged lipstick and tousled hair. Everything's perfect, she muttered, avoiding my gaze. He can't wait to see you. By 3:45, guests filled the pews, family, friends, co-workers. Colton's side exuded old money elegance. Mine burst with color and laughter. At 3:55, the coordinator signaled, showtime. Bridesmaids lined up. Ariel, cousin Maria. Colton's sister Rebecca, Karen leading. Dad offered his arm. Ready, Mija? I inhaled roses and candle wax. Ready. Doors opened to the wedding march. Faces turned, teary and smiling. I floated down the aisle, everything perfect, until Karen's interruption shattered it all. Her words, I'm pregnant and Colton is the father, hung like poison, the congregation holding its breath. My bouquet grew heavy. The warm church turned frigid. Eyes bored into me, awaiting collapse. But ice settled in my veins, clarity sharp and lethal. Colton stammered. Karen, please, not here. When then? She retorted, playing to the audience. On your honeymoon? When it's too late for Anna to escape this mistake. She faced the guests. I'm sorry for the awkwardness, but Anna deserves truth. Colton and I fought it, but love won. Murmurs swelled. Poor girl. At her wedding? Tristan lunged. I'm gonna kill them. Held back by Sydney and cousin Roberto. Karen fed on the chaos. We can't help who we love. This baby deserves its father, and Colton wants me. Colton shook. Karen, you're making it worse. Hiding the truth made it worse, she cried. Look at her in that ridiculous dress, thinking she's marrying her soulmate. Something snapped inside me. Not breaking but unleashing. I smiled wider. Karen recoiled. Oh honey, I cooed. You sweet stupid girl. Phone in hand, I pressed play. Her damning confession boomed, exposing her affairs with Colton's brother James and best man Michael. Her greed for Colton's wealth, her mockery of my naivety. Silence descended, broken by Grandma's prayers. Karen collapsed, sobbing. I was drunk, I didn't mean it. You meant every word, I corrected. To Colton. Care to add or play your tape calling me boring and clingy mid-tryst in our home? He gaped. The guest's shock turned to outrage. But twists deepened, I revealed more. I've known for months, I declared. Photos of Karen's walk of shame on Valentine's, credit charges for their rendezvous, the virtual conference at a local Marriott, $5,000 siphoned from our wedding fund for her debts. Karen stammered. Impossible. Then the DNA bomb. Last week's test, 24% Colton's paternity. 0 chance. But 99%. James Wellington. Head swiveled to James, groomsman and brother, paling. It was just a few times, he admitted. Colton roared. You slept with her? Karen wailed. James, you promised to leave Rachel. Rachel, James's fiancée, screamed from the pews. What? Chaos erupted. Rachel charging James, Michael's wife howling at him after I exposed Karen's tryst with Michael too. Promise to leave your wife for her. Shouts, tears, threats filled the air. My family bayed for blood. Colton's looked horrified. How? Karen whispered amid the pandemonium. I'm a nurse, I said sweetly. I collect evidence discreetly. Hair from your brush, saliva from discarded cups. You discarded it all, thinking I was blind. Colton accused. You planned the wedding knowing? My love was real, I shot back. Your betrayal too. So I orchestrated this, your public downfall. But another twist lurked. Colton's mother, elegant in the front row, rose shakily. "Anna, wait, I knew." Gasps renewed. "You knew?" I demanded. She confessed tearfully. "Karen came to me months ago, claiming the baby was Colton's. I encouraged him to handle it quietly for the family's sake. I thought you'd never find out." The church reeled. Colton's father disowned her on the spot. "Eleanor, how could you?" Karen, desperate, turned. "It was her idea, the loans, the fraud." Revelations cascaded. Karen's identity theft, $50,000 stolen from my inheritance for her luxuries and prior abortions. Colton's complicity in forging loans, even a $50,000 second mortgage on our house. Abortions. Colton gasped, realizing her manipulations ran deeper. Sirens wailed. Detective Rivera stormed in with officers. Arrests for fraud, embezzlement, identity theft. As cuffs clicked, Karen begged. "Since kindergarten, Anna, mercy. That friendship died with your greed," I said, voice cracking at last. Colton pleaded. "A mistake." "No," I replied. "You were the mistake." Doors thudded shut. Applause erupted, led by Grandma. Father Rodriguez prayed for justice amid the fallout. Texts flooded. Viral live streams turned #weddingrevenge into a sensation. The reception morphed into a freedom fiesta. Dancing toasts to my strength. But drama lingered. Angelo arrived heartbroken, revealing Karen's blackmail of him too, forcing silence with fabricated photos. Colton's family splintered, his father vowing to testify against him. Detective updated. Confessions poured, exposing a web of deceit including Colton's embezzlement from his firm. Prison loomed, years for all. News swarmed, Ellen called. 8 months on from Barcelona's Sunset Cafe. I backpacked Europe, inked a book deal, spoke at conferences. Colton and Karen sentenced to 4 years. Baby James's raised by forgiving Rachel. Michael's divorce, my new home with Luna. Master's program starts. Salsa lessons thrill. No regrets. I unearthed strength in betrayal's ashes. But one final twist. A letter from Karen in prison, claiming remorse, begging forgiveness. I burned it. My story? Just unfolding, richer, twistier, mine alone.